What is going on, y'all? We are live on YouTube and Facebook, and we are
Instagram.
live on Instagram-orama. How's everybody doing today? How's everybody doing today? We're going to be talking about health books we recommend.
Health books we recommend.
I actually meant to grab a stack of them. You talk to them, I'll grab the books real quick.
What's up, guys? We're talking about health books that we recommend. Robert's going to get his list. I don't really have a good list, but so I put a lot of the pressure on Robert for this conversation. But Crystal got my favorite zip up on. I use it almost every day. Yep, it's my favorite too. I have the men's like gray one as well, but I like this. I like this one, this color. Daryl says hello from Cincy. What's up, you guys? Robert is taking his time over there, getting his health books on. What else? What else do we have updates on? Anything?
Me? No.
Oh, Robert's book is the best to be on the list. Yeah, I guess that's my number one book is Robert's. Ketogenic bodybuilding. What you doing back there, Rigel? All right. Well, we're just waiting on Robert to get back over here with his books, and then we can talk about the health books that we are recommending. Can I just start with my top pick?
No, it's probably going to overlap here.
Probably, but you're taking forever. He's taking forever.
I'm coming.
Okay, he's coming. He's a coming. He's a coming. He's got 1, 2, 3, 5. I've
got 5 books, but that's not all I've got because I've also got my Audible. I use Audible quite a bit.
That's true.
Let's go through the Audible version first. All right, so let me log into Audible here. I've been listening to more books than I've been reading because I don't ever really find myself having time to flip through pages.
Yeah, who has time to read anymore?
But I do love reading. All right, so I've quick little hack here. I've got my Audible account. I've got hundreds of books in there, but I made different collections. Sure. Based off of different categories. So I've got in the health collection. Let's see here. The Great Plant-Based Con by Jane Buxton. It's a pretty good book. I like it. It references a lot of the people that we all know. I feel like it's a really good overview. It's a very long book, but it's a really good overview of everything that we talk about in the keto, low carb, carnivore space in its totality. It scratches the surface on a lot of the industrialized systems that are working against us. So that's a good general overview book for sure. The Great Plant-Based Con by Jane Buxton. Ravenous by Sam Apple is a really good book talking about the Warburg effect. Had him on the podcast, but anybody interested in keto for cancer and just that as a metabolic disease, that would be a really good read. Let's see here. The 4-Hour Body by Tim Ferriss. That is not a keto specific book by any means, but it's got a lot of really good tips related to training, nutrition, and it's just a good all-inclusive, all-encompassing book as well.
These aren't supposed to be keto specific.
Yeah, there's the Ketogenic Bible is a really good one. It talks about a lot of the different science. It's by Jacob Wilson and Ryan Lowry. But this is another really good all-encompassing book, so I would recommend that one. Real Food Pregnancy by Lily Nichols, I believe. Yep. You've read this one, right? You have read this one?
I scanned through it because people were asking me about it during my pregnancy, but I didn't read it.
But this is a really good one. I actually have not read Bill Schindler's book yet. Sorry, Bill. But I love Bill as a person, and I know exactly how he thinks and what he talks about. I've listened to so many of his lectures. I've sat around a campfire with him for hours and talked about his philosophy. So I have no doubt that the stuff he and I talk about is in this book, and I would highly, highly recommend all his work in its totality, but there's his book. Deep Nutrition. This is one of my favorites, one of my go-tos. Deep Nutrition. by Kate Shanahan.
This is the one I was going to recommend.
I'm actually having her come on my podcast the day after we get back from KetoCon. So I'm
that's so
going,
far into the future.
Yeah, I'm already booked out through
July
and a lot of my podcasts. It's kind of crazy. But this is a really, really good book. It talks a lot about epigenetics.
It is a really good book.
Yeah, highly encourage it. And this one, again, is not keto specific. So if you have family members or friends that are like anti-keto for whatever reason, then give them this book.
It's such a good book. Like, it's good for anyone of any age, but I would highly recommend it if you were thinking about having kids or in the middle of having kids or something like that. It talks so much about like what you are passing down to your children. This is like a book that Robert and I read a few times before we decided to like.
And she's got a new book that's coming out that is what I'm going to interview her about. But let me see the title on that one. That one is, I think it's called like Dark Calories or something like that. Is that it? Dark Calories? Yeah. Dark Calories is her new book. And I haven't read that one yet. But her and I will dive into that book and its context on the podcast. And then I may be a little bit biased with this one, but Ketogenic Bodybuilding by Robert Ryan Sykes. Pretty good book, especially if the goal is performance optimization and body composition with a ketogenic diet. So again, maybe slightly biased on that one, but highly recommend that. There's a whole bunch of books. Like I literally listen to podcasts and listen to audiobooks while I train. I don't listen to music when I work out anymore. I just listen to books and audio books and podcasts. I listen to a lot of business books lately though while training. I just finished Lifespan, and that was, I don't know if I loved that Lifespan book. I think it was good. I mean, I get something from every book I read, but that wouldn't be on my top list by any means, by Sinclair. But yeah, that's a good one. And then Will Harris actually just came out with a book, Returning to Giving a Damn, I think is its title.
Rigel.
And that's all about regenerative agriculture, pouring back into the environment, pouring back into the community. That would be a good one as well, especially when you value where your food comes from. All right. Any other questions?
Says, love reading. I do too. I just don't have the time to sit down quietly with a book.
You have my book in your Amazon cart. Nice.
I have your book. Yeah.
Yeah.
You read that funny.
I'm going to do an audio version of my book at some point so that it can be listened to on Audible, but I have not had the time to sit down in my recording studio and just read my whole book.
Christina said Lifespan was boring.
Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of it. I listened to it. I appreciated where he was coming from, but there wasn't a whole lot of actionable data that I took from it. They talked quite a bit about like all the emerging research around stem cells and anti-aging and all of that stuff. And I don't know, I think he glossed over, like he was definitely more prominent with regards to the new emerging research, but less so talking about just simply eating the right foods and moving your body more. And I would definitely encourage people to go that direction with things and prioritize that first and foremost.
I just watched the new 20-minute documentary on Will Harris and his farm, and it was pretty cool. It's on YouTube right now.
Oh, I did not know that was on YouTube. Who was, he's got a couple documentaries. Which one was that you just watched? Because I will definitely check that out.
I got to get up early. I'm up at 5 a.m., quick reading and a coffee before I head into the gym before work. Nice. Yeah, Robert has a really good routine. Like
I definitely have my morning routine dialed in.
Yeah, like he'll wake up and he reads and he like does all of the things, like cold plunge, and then he goes and works out and do all. I wake up and then I have a little bit of time before Rigel wakes up. Pens. Then I have a little bit of time before Rigel wakes up, and then my day is all keto.
All keto.
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 Keto too, but
yeah. So our day, like for reading, like physical reading, I typically do that when I'm flying. Like I do like to read when I'm flying, but I don't really have much time to just read. So that's why I listen. But I'm getting the content in. All right. Open discussion, y'all. Bring it on.
The Rebel Cowboy is the documentary.
The Rebel Cowboy. Outlive by Peter T. Yeah, my mom actually just read that one. She highly recommended it. So that would be a good book. That is actually on my Audible list for one of the next books I'll get. So I am excited to read Outlive. I do like Peter Tia for sure. I don't agree with everything he says, but I feel like he is very knowledgeable.
Outlive is awesome.
Yeah, he's a good source. And Mom really liked that book as well. There's so many books that I've read. I don't even like. I've got bookshelves upon bookshelves. I've got so many books. It's insane.
It's kind of dumb.
But I love books. So I love learning. You can't ever put a price on education. Learning is key. Now that said,
I was just about to say, okay.
What?
Well, that being said, go ahead. Finish your conversation.
Education is paramount.
Mm-hmm.
Where you get that education is there are good.
Robert has like this topic. He's like so. I don't even know how to say it. Like
I'm
you're so
underwhelmed. I am underwhelmed with the current educational system.
But education in general is important.
Yes.
No matter what way you're getting it.
Yeah. But I'm underwhelmed with the current educational system. What were you getting at there?
That's what I was getting at. Was like you just said that, and then other times you'll say, "Well," but
I've always put education.
I know,
value.
but that's what I'm giving you a hard time because you have it's hard to explain, but you know what I mean. You know what I was getting at.
Yeah. All right. Open discussion, y'all. Open floor question. Do y'all like this T-shirt? It says reflect, recalibrate, re-engage. And on the back, I don't know if they can
It's got a broad head and it says 2024.
2024. So this is my manifesto for 2024. Reflect, recalibrate, and re-engage. And we're going to be dropping these designs on T-shirts and thermals this Sunday. We're firing up the Live Savage Apparel business side of things again. So I'm excited about that because we haven't done an apparel launch in forever.
His part on Chris Hemsworth Limitless show was great, talking about fasting.
Yeah, I've heard lots of really good things about that show, that docuseries, specifically that mini part of that docuseries. I do want to watch that for sure.
His podcast is great too, just extremely long. LOL.
Yeah, his podcast is good though. I do like Peter Tia's podcast, The Drive. As far as podcasts go, what has been my go? Like my podcast, I've been kind of listening to a lot of Huberman's got some really good podcasts. I listen to a lot of Rogan podcasts, mostly audiobooks though. Rogan, Huberman, Tim Ferriss podcast. That's kind of like the podcast I started on was Tim Ferriss.
Greg said, love the shirt.
Well, thank you,
you
Greg.
need to go search for alternatives in higher education like IFM and A4M. I agree with you, Robert. The state of education is underwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of been diving down the rabbit hole as far as like how we want to educate Rigel, because we put that in such a high regard. And, we're definitely not going to go through the conventional, traditional system. I went to public schools. I went to small town public school. And, you get out of it what you put into it. But it's harder to put a lot into it when you don't have a great framework to begin with. So, yeah, we're not 100% where we're going to take him.
I'm 100%.
We're homeschooling, but like what curriculum we're going to use, all that good stuff.
But we still have years before that's even necessary.
And there's some things that like I don't know how to do. Like I wouldn't be able to homeschool him on like a bunch of calculus. I don't remember calculus, but then I stop and think, how often do I use calculus in my current profession? And the answer is 0.
But you want him to learn these things. However, when he gets higher in school grades, like into high school and things like that, things that we are not knowledgeable in, there are ways for them to learn online. There's programs. There are tutors. There are.
We're going to spend lots of time at the library.
There's like co-ops. There's a ton, especially now, like after COVID. That's a strawberry. But after COVID, I feel like a lot of people decided to continue homeschooling too. So I feel like there's a lot more opportunity to use that community and fill in those areas that you do not know, you know?
There's a pretty prominent Montessori school close to us. I don't know
Yeah.
much of the details on that.
Seems like it's pretty good.
Mark Bell's Powercast is really good. Yeah, he actually just got done interviewing Thomas DeLauer and Dom DiAgostino, and they mentioned the keto bricks like 3 times in that podcast. So that was pretty cool because they all eat them.
School is great for networking and for friendships.
Yes.
I agree, but I feel like there's also so many other places to get those things, you know?
Yeah.
Do you have any charter schools for the arts near you, or perhaps Walden schools?
There is one. It's in Springdale. It's like an hour from us, 45 minutes from us. But it's like a school of the arts. I haven't dove super deep into that, what they offer yet. But yeah, we do have that. Sarah went to Montessori.
That might be a diesel treat.
He could eat it.
I used to go to a Montessori. I used to be a Montessori teacher 11 years. Oh, I didn't know that about you.
We got to ask you about all this
Montessori
stuff, Christina.
with you offline. Yeah, I am. I'm a part of like several Montessori
What is the general definition of Montessori school?
Groups and things like that. Well, it was a woman, and it's her philosophy behind. Would you quit? Diesel doesn't need the whole bar. But yeah, like her, and I might have this totally botched, but I think it's a lot of like simplicity, but also realistic things that they're going to use, like things in life that you would actually use. It's not like just a bunch of just random toys. It's like, what are skills that we're actually learning? What are, things like that.
Yeah,
but
application
also keeping
is key.
it like super simple and like basic and I don't know. Yeah.
And there's a lot of things like discipline, for instance, that I think a well-structured school would instill. But I look at like a lot of the schools that are out there nowadays, and it's like they're the furthest thing from a disciplined environment. So I don't really want to go that route. But yeah, there's a lot of different. We've got the Live Savage brand, and as he gets older and older, we're going to have so much more content relevant to that aspect of things, like the direction we're taking him from a schooling and education standpoint, how we're instilling certain life values in him. So yeah. Oops. Josh says, in the gym, is it better to have more reps and fewer sets? I've always been tossed on this. For example, I have been doing for leg press 180 pounds for 10 reps. Then moving up my weight 2 plates at a time. Progress to 5 sets total. So it kind of depends. I mean, I'm actually talking about this on my live with my community group after this, as far as like sets and rep schemes. Like from a strength standpoint, generally speaking, you want to go heavier weight, and that's going to entail fewer reps. From a hypertrophy standpoint, you want to have somewhere between that 8 to 12, 15 rep range. And then you get much beyond that. And then you start getting to the realm of what people call junk volume. So like you're depleted at that point. Muscle glycogen's gone, not gone, but depleted. And you're not really benefiting from it anymore. So you would have been better off doing fewer reps and heavier weights. I typically operate in that 8 to 12 rep scheme, but I'll throw in some very heavy lower rep sets on my primary compound movements, like my squats, deadlift, bench, overhead press, and focus more on just going heavier at the fewer rep counts. Oftentimes more sets, and just really pushing the needle on overall intensity. Myriad of factors, total volume is obviously important, but that is not the single most important thing, especially if it comes at the expense of adequate intensity. So lots of factors there. I think I accidentally skipped a question. Let's see here. Walden schools include gardening, and it's very in tune with the earth. Well, that's pretty cool. Christina says, Maria Montessori was the first female Italian doctor. I can share the philosophy offline. It teaches independence and resilience, and it's amazing. Yeah, I definitely would love to learn all about this stuff, because if that's the direction we go with him, I want to just know all the details. I might not be working that right, might not be wording that right, if that makes sense. If it didn't make sense. No, it makes total sense. Hopefully I answered that right. But it kind of really just depends on overall goals. So like if my primary goal was to do a powerlifting competition, I would train differently than if my primary goal is to do a bodybuilding competition. But a lot of people get so tunnel vision on that specific goal, that it comes at the expense of just being able to move properly, having great mobility, having great flexibility. All of those things are important. So for me, I bodybuild. I typically focus in that 8 to 12 rep scheme. I'll oftentimes do like 15, 12, 10, 8 with like a pyramid structure in which I'm going heavier with each set. So kind of like have that higher rep set to begin with to warm up the muscle, and then I just get progressively heavier with each set. James Lewis on here says Montessori system of education for young children that seeks to develop natural interest in activities. Yeah, I think that's key. Like figuring out, like instilling confidence in the youth to pursue what their interests are, what their natural interests are, and pursuing the development of those strengths as opposed to fixating on their weaknesses, which I think a lot of modern schools do. Like in school, traditional conventional schools, you could have a report card, and if you've got A's across the board and then a C in a certain criteria or certain curriculum, that's the one everybody focuses on. Oh, you got all A's, but then you got a C, like that's bad. Well, maybe they're not, maybe they could be even better at the other ones if that wasn't the sole fixation. So that said, you don't want to focus so much on just their interest that you don't, instill the desire to be disciplined with their weaknesses. So there's a balance, a line to toe there. Because like unschooling is a concept too, which is basically like only focusing, and I may be butchering this, so forgive me if I'm wrong, where it's like you only focus on their interest. And I think while that may be good in, premise, it oftentimes doesn't prepare. Yeah, like for instance, he may not ever want to take a shower. Rigel may never want to take a shower. Should I instill that belief that he should never take a shower, or should I discipline him and be like, hey, every once in a while a shower is probably a good thing? So yeah, I think that's key.
Woo!
Why is my computer going all crazy here? I'm happy to help with school info as well. I have been to or worked at a diversity of these places. Yeah, we're all ears on the schools. For the endurance racing, I was hoping it's going to help build strength for the long-term events. We have lots of elevation climbs. Yeah, in that regard, there's like this weird stigma for endurance athletes that they can't have a whole lot of muscle. But I mean, yeah, if you're trying to do like ultra marathons and run 50 plus miles, you probably don't want to weigh 300 pounds of solid tissue, but you're not going to get 300 pounds naturally anyway. So I wouldn't really worry about that unless you're like 6'5". You want up? But I do not worry about having more lean mass when it comes to endurance racing. I think it only benefits me whenever I do run or do things of that nature, as long as your cardiovascular health is in check. Click on that one.
Embrace failure, for it is the greatest master from which wisdom is forged.
I like that quote. That may have to be on the next 7-set Sunday. Hey, buddy, can you close that for me? Can you put that in there and close that drawer, please?
You already talked about the endurance, right?
Close the drawer. Good job. Thank you. No, leave that one closed too, please. He's definitely in this defiance mode right now, though, where he's testing us.
It's not defiance. It's just learning. He's just learning. He doesn't understand.
Yeah. Some of it is occasionally defiance.
What is that?
Screwdriver.
Let's put that down.
You put that in the drawer, too?
Oh, he's a goober.
All right. What are the questions we got, y'all? Bring them to the table. We're on free flow mode right now. So freestyling it as we go. Any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, feedback? Anything that y'all want to chit chat about, we are all about it. I woke up at 189.2 today. That is the heaviest I've weighed in a long time. But all of my markers are going up. My body fat's solid.
Lean mass is going up.
Strength markers are shooting through the roof. So I'm just taking it and loving it.
My wife and I have 4 kiddos, 8 to 14. If I could, we would 100% homeschool. Yeah, that's 100% what we are doing. If the kids get to a certain age where they decide that they want to go to that they want to go to a school, then we will look at our other options. Like we'll probably just have those options open just in case life changes or something like that. But we're definitely homeschooling at least through elementary school, if not all the way through. I know a lot of people who their kids prefer to be homeschooled. I even have a nephew who he was homeschooled for quite some time and then went to public school and would still prefer to be homeschooled. And it's just, I think it really just depends on their level of education. It depends on their level of learning. I think some kids have a easier time learning with a parent who can give them more undivided attention. And I don't know. I'm a big fan of homeschooling, especially with the different opportunities that are around with, and like I've talked to Robert, like when it comes to that time, like I'm totally down to open my own co-op, like to do something, to be a part of the community, to like make that a thing where we are, if it's not big enough already. Like I'm totally down to be that person that like tries to organize that and brings people together and brings in, I mean, there's a bunch of moms. There are moms who have been nurses. There are moms who have been, or dads, whoever stays home, who have worked construction, who have, they've been a scientist, they've been a teacher, they've been all of these other things, and they all know something different. Robert could come in and talk about nutrition or talk about health or, movement or fitness or whatever, talk about having his own business, talk about whatever. Like there's so many things that all of these adults know. And if they just sacrificed a day or an hour to come talk to these kids all in one group, and someone was willing to bring them all together, I think that'd be pretty awesome, So I don't know. I just think that there's so much opportunity, and I'm so excited about it.
Best advice to help start a 14-year-old daughter to get on the better health and habits for hormonal health. Well, practice what you preach. Lead by example, first and foremost. Be the example.
He also said, I know that you have had some great guests on this topic.
Yeah. And honestly, just taking y'all are the ones grocery shopping, not her. So make sure that, it's not going to be available to them in the house. Like when they go outside the house, you can't have as much control over that. But I would definitely remove the options in the household, and then just sit down and have an educated conversation with them about what these foods are, how they interact in the body, what the long-term compounding effect of them are. Because I feel like kids are much more knowledgeable than we give them credit for, especially at 14. I mean, like she's knowledgeable. She's going to be, wanting to do her own thing and be independent for sure. But if you live by example, that's going to speak volumes right there. And she's going to pick up on things that you don't even realize she's picking up on. So I would recommend that for sure.
As someone who's been a 14-year-old girl, I will speak on this part. And I will say that is a very tender and sensitive time in life. So I would be kind of careful and gentle as you adjust. I don't know your daughter specifically. She could be completely the opposite of me or a lot of my friends or my friends' kids and things like that. But a lot of times that is a very interesting time in life where you don't quite know who you are. You have a lot of different opinions coming at you in different directions. You have people who are willing to make fun of you or whatever for just the gosh darn stupidest things. Like I remember being 14, being in 8th grade or 9th grade, and just people just nitpick on you like for no reason. But I think finding a reason why she would want to be healthy, because she may not at that point care about her hormones.
Hey.
She may not care about her hormones at this point in her life, but she might care about acne, like telling her that hey, if you eat these foods, you're probably going to have more acne. If you eat these foods, you're probably going to have a lot less. If she has started her period, you can say hey, if you eat these foods, you're probably going to have a lot less cramping and a lot less pain than if you eat these foods. You're going to have a lot more inflammation. It's going to cause you to be more irritable, and it's going to cause you to, so maybe trying to find things that in her life are affected by her nutrition or her fitness that she can get excited about, rather than just being like, this is better for you, da, 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 da. Here's the food that you can eat, here's the food you can't, but just helping her to understand why she would even want to change.
Speaking of hormonal health and environmental factors, I had a podcast today. We talked all about environmental toxins, and he's 72 years old. And he has
Wow.
a 3-year-old.
Whoa.
That's the punchline. Yeah. Kind of crazy. How are your parents?
Oh my gosh.
They're great.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, that's so much energy.
Yeah. They are great. My parents are great. Crystal's parents are great.
Yeah.
Dad actually came by today to drop off some lumber, so we got to see him for about an hour. But he is great. Active pregnancy pants.
These were like suggestions that people gave me when I was pregnant with Rigel of brands to buy of workout pants. That's funny.
My InBody had me at 155.4 and 11.5% body fat with a type P weight type. Never seen that one before. Usually it's a D type on my dial, H30. Type P.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. Because I've got that same thing, that H. Let me see what mine says.
I'm going to read a question over here. There's a bunch of teachers that now teach in the co-op manner due to formal schools not teaching what they agreed to. My kids love it. So that's awesome to hear.
Yeah, mine does not show what the different body types are.
I'll take it. Thank you. It's just some
Result
red
sheet
noodle salt.
guide. Yeah, mine doesn't say either. I have to look that up online. I don't know what that would be. Type P. Male, 43, 6 foot,
Thank you.
11.5% body fat. But if you're 6 foot and 155 pounds, that sounds about 6 foot's pretty tall. I'm like 5'7". I got down to 151. So 11.5 is pretty good. But I would think, I'm not to see pictures. I'm a visual guy. But 6 foot at 155, I would imagine you're pretty lean.
We got, this has been the hardest part of being a parent, LOL. She had a doctor's appointment today at her naturopath. So I'm hoping she got some more words of advice from someone else other than here, Dad, LOL. Yeah, I get that. That is really hard. And it is just an interesting age too, because it is important. It's all important at that time. But it's so also hard because it's not really something that like most kids care about, and you
because they feel indestructible.
And I don't know, but she might have things going on where she does care. She would care. She would want to change. And I think just like making the small changes is going to be really helpful. Like you can do what Robert said and like, just like, we don't have any right now, babe. Just instead of like completely knocking everything out, just like work on one thing at a time. Like, hey, let's make breakfast really clean. Hey, we eat dinner together as a family every single day. This is what we're going to provide. Just really kind of make things simplified and then like slowly transitioning snacks that she can take to school to be a little bit healthier. But not like eliminating the good things. You might have to do some of the swaps that are like not perfect, but like the swaps that are better, if that makes sense. Like, they have like the healthier candies that aren't really healthier. It's like getting chocolate chips versus a Lily's chocolate chips. The Lily's chocolate chips are not perfect, but they're much better than a regular chocolate chip, if that makes sense. And then you can kind of like go forward.
Your best chance with teen is to get them curious about the topic. The rest is a crapshoot. I like that advice.
That's pretty true. Yeah.
Visual fat
Visceral.
score.
Visceral fat score.
Yeah, visceral.
I think
There's
that's
a
what
C. Yeah,
they're
that makes sense.
trying to say.
Visceral fat scores at 4. Yeah, I got to look at my InBody because they just came out with the new InBody home version. And I think they changed a lot of their metrics. So I'm going to look into them. What's your opinion on chia seeds? It's the only thing that makes me regular. I like mixing with eggs, beef protein, and make pancakes out of it. Tastes great with a bit of allulose. I'm not opposed to chia seeds, but regularity. Like, how often do you think you need to go? Because, like, you talk to some people that are like, you got to go 5, 6, 7 times a day in order to be healthy. And disagree with that. Like I'm a one and done kind of guy.
Rigel.
If you're constipated, obviously that's not good, but that could be linked to hydration and electrolyte levels. More often than not, 9 times out of 10, if you're having constipation issues, it's because you're dehydrated and you don't have your electrolytes dialed in. But if that's dialed in and the chia seeds are still the only thing getting you regular, then I'm not opposed to chia seeds at all.
I'm not sure what this last word is. In a building phase of bodybuilding, which is B?
Yeah, what's the rest of that supposed to be? I don't know what the last word there is.
I homeschooled my daughter, my middle school, and loved it. We did a Bible-based curriculum. We have flexibility, and most days we are done by 12 p.m. That's exactly what I've heard. And there is a few curriculum I have looked into that are probably similar to what you're doing.
Mike says Bill's book is excellent. Yeah, I've got utmost respect for all things Bill. Salt to meat is all that's needed to make a poo. That's a hydration issue. No, without chia, I shoot very small, tiny bullets, and it takes effort. Yeah, I definitely think more hydration would be where I would turn to first. Mike says you need more fat. Yeah, or lack of fats. Yeah, if your dietary fats are too low, that could certainly be a contributing factor as well. When it comes to regularity and digestion, first thing I do is hydration, electrolytes, get that dialed in. Then it's a macronutrient distribution from there, typically speaking. If your protein is way high in relation to your fat, that's going to cause some issues. If your fat is way too high in relation to your protein, that's going to cause some issues. Other end of the spectrum, though. What's your thoughts on using the keto lifestyle to help combat cancer? So all the cancer research. I skipped one from you. I have the kids doing 500 mil to 1K runs meters to 1K runs if they want candy or sugars. I like that. What's your thoughts on using the keto lifestyle to help combat cancer? I'm all for it. I mean, it kind of depends on the type of cancer. Like it's not a cure-all for cancer, but there are certain types of cancers that are definitely going to be more prolific in a sugary environment. Kind of like that Warburg effect that I was talking about in that book, Ravenous by Sam Apple. So if you can mitigate that by removing the carbohydrates and the sugar, then I think that is an easy, low-hanging fruit win for sure.
We've been on here a little long, and Rigel and Diesel both escaped, and now they're being crazy with the markers.
All right, let me get these last 2 questions, and we'll call it. Should I worry about the carbs in beef liver? No. So I am definitely an advocate for counting total carbs and not net carbs, but there are certain sources of carbs that I'm less particular on, particularly those that are coming just from stored glycogen in eggs, in beef liver, and raw oysters. Like if you're getting carbs from those sources, I wouldn't worry too much about that at all. Look up the Bristol stool chart for poo. I'm almost positive that you're saying that it's a number 1. Yeah, the Bristol stool chart is a good resource. Stay strong, guys and gals. I got to chase my toddler. Yeah, we do too. Crystal, you just need an old and retired have time to read. You just need to be old and retired time to read. Yeah, I'll read a lot more when I'm old and retired for sure. All right, y'all. We got kiddos going crazy. We got a puppy that's going ballistic. So we're going to book it. Love y'all. Thank you for your time, guys. Really appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in, Josh. We appreciate all of y'all. Much love. Ta-ta for now. Adios.
See ya. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.